like a child who ignores his father. I think my way is better, and I start walking down the road, not knowing where it's gonna lead. Like stubborn sheep I tend to wander, trying to find that greener pasture, when everything I'd ever want was underneath my feet. You always know, you always know, you always know what's best for me. Sometimes it's just not clear to me what on earth you're doing, but I'm learning I can trust you when nothing makes sense to me.
Hey, welcome to the morning show with Uncle Bill. You're coming up on this edition of the Wednesday version of the morning show with Uncle Bill. Hi, Trey Gowdy's a little upset this morning. And what if you got an email that somebody had $27 billion and wanted to give it away and just sent you an email? Would you answer it? And what is the origin of your family name? There's an interesting connection with that this morning we're going to talk about, and that and a whole lot more coming up on this edition of the morning show with Uncle Bill. Big D and our new research analyst, Craig.
Prosper. You like to see me doing well, doing well. Your thoughts are higher, your ways are so much greater, so I can trust you through it all, through it all. Your thoughts are higher, your ways are so much greater, so I can trust you through it all, through it all. You always know, you always know, you always know what's best for me. You always know, you always know, you always know what's best for me, what's best for me, what's best for me.
Here we go.
News, sports, comedy, politics, everything you would expect in a morning show. Faster than the fastest nightmare. Brighter than the dullest dream.
Right here.
Right now. The morning show with Uncle Bill. Grab your coffee and hang on. For the next 2 hours, the unexpected will haunt you, entertain you, and drive you absolutely insane. So let's get started. Here's Uncle Bill.
Welcome, my friends. Welcome to the morning show with Uncle Bill. And this is our Wednesday edition of the morning show. And we've got the next 2 hours with you right here on BNNS Radio.
Uncle Bill would like to apologize in advance for whatever he may say tomorrow. The morning show with Uncle Bill on BNNS Radio. Sick of over-opinionated celebrity gossip and mindless, incessant, trivial commentary? Boy, are you in the wrong place. The Morning Show with Uncle Bill on BNNS Radio.
That's right. You're in the wrong place if you expect to hear all good stuff. I mean, we tell it like it is. We tell it the way we see it, and we do our research because we have a crack research team. We have a lot of people working in the background to make sure that we get accurate news. And we've all gathered together and we've all put together our emails, everything that we said concerning the Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton campaign during the election, and we've turned it over to the Justice Department, so there's no question as to where Uncle Bill, Big D, and everybody else on our staff at the time, how they felt. No question coming from this side. If you don't like that, hey, welcome to you folks out there in the studio audience. Got kind of a small audience this morning as we have thunder boomers running through the area. It was lightning or thundering out just a little bit ago. And so that might have kept some people away this morning because we don't open our doors until we're ready to go live, and we let people come in, and nobody wanted to stand out there in the thunder. And I tried to get security to open the doors, but you know how security is. They have to follow the rules. Rules are rules and made to follow. 76 degrees in Belvedere with thunderstorms, and we have broken clouds. So that must mean that the thunderstorms are widely scattered at this moment. 76% humidity. Winds are out of the southwest at 12 miles per hour. And our prediction for today, we have a 50% chance of scattered thunderstorms throughout the day, mostly in the PM. However, it's going to be a warm day here in Belvedere today. In fact, it's going to be a hot day here in Belvedere. 89 degrees for a high today expected. And so with 80% humidity, it's going to be one of those what we call uncomfortable days. Before I get to bringing on my co-host and everything, I want to discuss one little thing because it really doesn't require a whole lot of conversation unless when I bring Craig and Big D on, they want to discuss it. That's entirely up to them. But I found it very, very... I've always said that God works in strange ways. And, everybody agrees with that, because anytime something happens that we don't expect or something that we don't like or, somebody unexpectedly dies. Unfortunately, we had a 15-year-old young man die overnight from a drowning. Apparently these boys were out running, and according to local news, they were out running, and they got down to Spencer's Park where we have some ponds where people fish and everything. And apparently the boy must have gotten into the water to cool off, and suddenly he disappeared, and of course authorities were called. He was underwater for at least a half hour, and they recovered the body, and they performed CPR and tried to resuscitate, cover. However, he was pronounced dead at the hospital later on in the day. So, heartfelt feelings. So, sometimes those types of things happen, and we don't understand why those types of things happen, but they do. And from one of my resources, I got a saying here that says, sometimes God allows what he hates to accomplish what he loves. Think about that statement for a minute. Sometimes God allows what he hates to accomplish what he loves. And if you go back and at some time today at your convenience, if you pick up your Bible and read Romans 8:28, I think it'll explain a little bit more about what that means. But here's what I found very interesting. Somebody posted on Facebook, what is the origin of your family name? Now, I realize some of this stuff is 99.99999% of it's all kind of goofy, made up stuff. But this one really struck me this morning because, you do it just for fun, right? You want to see what they bring out about your name. So I put the family name Volant in there. And it came back and it said, people who understand that love is more than just a word or a feeling, and that it also requires loving actions were known as Volant. Being a Volant means being loving in every sense and demonstrating it through their words and selflessness, actions. Now, I found that very, very, very interesting because, and what's the relationship with God and everything? What I found to be very, very interesting is today on Confessing Moments, which comes up at 10:30 this morning, immediately following the Focus on Mental Health show. Today we talk about clarifying love. Love is an action. Love is not a feeling. And if you say something to your bride or your friends or somebody that's close to you, I love you. We really anticipate that we accept that as a feeling, something that comes from our hearts. But that is not true according to scriptures. Love is not a feeling. Love is an action word. You demonstrate your love by what you do for others, for that person that you love, for your wife, your spouse, your family, and so on and so forth. And that is my message today on Confessing Moments, clarifying love. And I just found it extremely interesting, not coincidental, but very interesting that the word Volant comes up to exactly what I was messaging this morning in Confessing Moments. So if you care to listen, stick around at 10:30 for this edition of Confessing Moments, clarifying love according to the scriptures. That being said, I hope you understand and appreciate that as much as I did.
Big D, co-host on The Morning Show with Uncle Bill, right here on BNNS Radio. You'll wonder how you ever got along without him.
Well, there's another scam on Facebook.
What?
I heard that definition and I went, well, there's another scam. I know Bill Volant. He's not clarifying love. He's clarifying butter. No, that does. I got to say, truthfully, Bill, that does describe you kind of almost.
What do you mean, kind of almost?
Oh, I'm not going to tell you it describes you to a T.
You call my wife up right now and you ask her whether or not I am selfless in my actions. What do you got playing in the background?
I don't know.
Does somebody have a TV on? I'm hearing
No,
something.
I know what it is. They've quit doing, now what they're doing is they're just embedding an audio file that just rambles on and on and on about.
Yeah.
But
whatever.
Yeah.
I want to also welcome to the team this morning, Craig, our research analyst. Craig, good morning. Uh-oh. You got to unmute, bud.
Good morning.
Yeah,
I thought I did.
You've been hanging around with Big D, haven't you? You forgot what the mute button is for.
I was in the chat box typing away.
Oh, okay.
You talked about love.
It's like, here we go again.
What, can you put in any of our names, Bill?
Sure.
You were talking about love being in action. Well, that song come up to mind, Love to Love You, Baby.
Really?
So there's two reasons or two definitions of the word love in that statement. A feeling and a action. I take it you don't remember that song.
No, I do not. What's the name of it?
I don't know. Perry, what's the name of that song? I love to love you, baby. I love to love you, baby. And it just goes like that for several.
Really?
I'm singing. I just sang it, Perry.
Perry could probably sing it.
I love to love. Well, doggone it. Now I'll have to find it. It was a popular song in the 70s, I think it was.
The following is a public service announcement of BNNS Radio. Take your medications only as prescribed by a doctor.
Dunlap. It comes since 1256. Your family was well known all over the world for being incredibly brave. In fact, they became so famous that their last name, Dunlap, became synonymous with courage and fearlessness, even in the face of impossible odds. Warriors would even meditate on the name Dunlap in order to encourage themselves to emulate your family's bravery.
Thank you very much. Dun dun dun.
And the word Russell. Due to their unfailing politeness, those with your last name could always be counted on to know what to do, even in the most awkward of social situations. Their grace and tact, even with the most difficult people, meant that everyone wanted a Russell in their life to teach them how they do it.
Now, when I've looked it up, several different places, it always comes to the same answer. The Russells were cattle rustlers. Cattle rustlers or sheep rustlers? Which makes more sense to me.
Well, I think that's based on, that's not the origin of your name. That is more or less your life history or action or whatever.
I have never rustled cattle.
Well, according to my dad, we had a horse thief in our family.
Really?
Yeah, when you go to Tombstone, Arizona, you go up to Boot Hill, and you go through and you pay your admission and you walk out into the graveyard. The first one you see right there on your right, big cactus growing out of it, it's Tom Three-Fingered Dunlap.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yep. And even Tombstone thinks he may be related to me.
Figgy. Now, of course, this is not Miss Liz's.
You should see what Peggy said, Bill.
What Peggy say?
The Vallance had a poet. He was also a thief.
Well, let me tell you the true story of that. My dad, my dad was as crazy as I am. And one time he was telling me all about our family, that somewhere in our past there was we were talking about famous people. And I guess I asked my dad if we had anybody that had any fame or any kind of fame, something famous in our family. And Dad said, well, we had a famous horse thief. And I said, what? And he said, he went on this spiel about one of our family members being a horse thief. And And so when I got to school, I was in high school at the time, and we got into that particular class. It must have been a history class. I'm not sure what class it was now. But anyway, we were talking about famous people throughout our class. And I raised my hand, of course, and I said, well, in our family, I'm not real proud of the fact, but we did have a horse thief in our family that was very well known and famous for being a top horse thief. And, everybody kind of thought it was kind of cool in a way, but, and so the time went on, and I've never given another thought. And then sometime later, must have been years later, sometime, of course, before Dad passed, we were talking again about this, and I related back to my dad about our famous horse thief, or somehow it came up in conversation. And Dad said, "What?" And I told him, what I had done, and he just busted out laughing, and I'm saying, "What? What?" And he said, "That was a joke." He said, "We don't have a horse thief in our family." And he got such a kick out of that, but I had the guts to go to school and tell everybody that I had a famous horse thief in my family. And he just laughed and laughed and laughed about that. But anyway, back to the names. Figgy. Now, I know this is not Miss Liz's maiden name, but the Figgy name in many cultures, to be a Figgy meant to be authentic. When someone used the word Figgy, you knew that they were a person who would be honest with you and show their true self to you. Powerful individuals preferred to have a Figgy by their side so that they knew that they had someone to trust.
Okay, Miss Liz, so what's your maiden name?
Pardon?
I asked Miss Liz what her maiden name is, so you could look that up.
Liz says, I'm related to Winston Churchill. Diane is sorry for Miss Liz for being related to Winston Churchill. Oh,
come on, Liz.
Liz, what is your maiden name?
Or on, spit it out.
Huh?
It's Dombrowski. Oh, no, there it is.
Everett. Okay, I got it. Okay, let's see what that one is.
I like to see that the chat box is busy.
Oh, it's lovely to see so many people in there today.
It's nice to see, folks.
All right, according to this analyst again, Everett, since 1584, the last name Everett was born from a legend about an individual named Everett who was known for their honesty. When encouraging their children to always be honest, parents would tell their children to be like Everett, and kings and queens would award their most honest and trusted advisors with the title of Everett.
Since we're talking about last names, and you brought up the horse thief, made me think about a story my dad told me. My father's the youngest of his family, and his father was 66 when he had my dad. Well, my grandfather died in 58, and I was born in 61, so I never met him. But Dad related that his dad told him that the Russells were from Chautauqua, Kansas, which is just south of Kansas City. And I guess my grandpa Russell remembers walking alongside the covered wagon when they headed up to move up to Minnesota. He remembered walking that as a child.
Really?
That's pretty wild to me.
You have a text message.
You guys all hear that?
I really, really, really wish that I would have known my grandfather when I was old enough to ask him questions about that stuff. As a child, he lived through an awful lot of the the time when, most of our cowboy movies come from. And I know they're movies, but...
Yeah. Well, a lot of that's is based on fact. I mean, really, some of that historical stuff had to come from somewhere.
Well, Jesse James hung around not Rockport. Oh, I can't think of the name. Town between here and Kansas City. It's in Kansas. Jesse James had a hideout there, so Grandpa would have walked right through that area. My goodness, Bill.
Well, they're trying to tell me that the radio's off the air for some reason. Well, I think it's over in Lincoln, Nebraska. There is a cave.
Nope. Nebraska City.
No, I remember taking a field trip one time with our school, and we went to Lincoln, and there's a cave where Jesse James hid out with his gang.
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about the other famous cave down south.
Well, I guess there's caves all over Nebraska that are famous.
Well, there's John Brown's cave down in Nebraska City. That's the one I thought you were going to talk about.
No, Jesse James, apparently, him and his gang hid out in a cave in around Lincoln, because I remember going there, and I remember the teacher telling us the history of Jesse James. And it just doesn't seem real because you were there. Somebody else was talking to me yesterday too, that about being in a place where somebody famous actually walked, and of course a lot of people relate back to if they go to Israel, they actually walk the same steps that Jesus Christ walked, or I cannot remember what this person was saying the other day, but it had to do with to think that it was the being in the exact place where President Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address.
That's cool.
They were from the east, the northeast up there, where Gettysburg, and you sit there and you're kind of in an awe, because right here on this spot is where they held the Lincoln-Douglas debate, or here's where President Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address. And you think, wow, just think of that. And we were talking, Dee and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, or a week ago, sometime, about these people that have lived 100 years. In fact, I was reading a story last week about if you have lived just 65 years old. A young boy was asking his grandmother what were some of the things that she remembered from her past. And she said, well, I came before TV, I came before the automatic dishwasher, blah, blah, blah. She went down this whole list. It's way too long to go through. And it said, if you are older than 65, you became before all of these things. And when you think in the terms of that type of age, I'm 72, and you go back and you can't, and before all of that, you know what I'm trying to say, that all these inventions or things that came out in just the last 65 years. Just think, the computer, the thing that we use to communicate all over the world, is younger than a lot of us that's on the air right now.
I remember as a teenager, now I guess I'd have been about 10, that it was long distance to dial from one side of the Missouri River to the other side.
Yeah.
It was a long-distance call. And
Yes.
it was a huge deal to make a long-distance call because it cost a lot more money.
That's correct.
And now, look at us around the world.
That's right.
We're talking to Diane over in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just amazing.
It
But
just,
kids that are growing up now, to them, it's no big deal.
well, they don't understand. You say to somebody about a manual typewriter, and they go, huh?
Right.
I learned to type on a manual typewriter. And everybody's going, a manual typewriter? What's a manual typewriter?
I've got a term that if you want to see people under the age of 35 look at you funny, say bulletin board. Or
See,
BBS.
I don't know about that one so much, Big D. And again, not to disagree with you, but right now they use bulletin boards on the internet all the time.
No, I'm talking about prior to the internet.
Why? I know what you're saying, but the term bulletin board is used. Post to your. Well, I guess it's post to your page or post to your board.
I didn't know bulletin boards are still running.
You mean that they still have them?
Are we talking the ones that they came out with before the internet?
Yeah. The piece of cork board that you used to hang.
Oh, no. I was talking about the other ones that you would dial in, make your messages, wait a few hours, dial back in and see who else made comments on what you said.
Oh, no. I don't think they have those anymore. That's gone by the wayside of Twitter.
Oh, that went out the window with internet.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Bill. Dirt is younger than you and I. So.
Now wait a minute, Big D. I'm close to your age.
Well, jump in the pool. Water's fine.
Anyway, I found that to be kind of interesting with those names because it just fell in right with exactly.
Diane, let me jump in here before it goes off the screen. Diane said, I don't find it a big deal to talk to people from other countries. It's too easy after being on the CB. Now, that was exciting. This whole conversation, we skipped CBs. That was a big deal when I was a teenager. When your father got his first CB, Bill, I was just absolutely fascinated with it.
Oh, I remember my first CB. It was an old Johnson tube-type CB, and I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning talking to people on the CB after I got off of duty. Well, no, I wasn't on duty. That was back in Omaha when I lived in Carter Lake, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm on the CB talking to people, and let me tell you a real quick story about that big experience I learned very quickly in life. Don't ever go by the voice of the individual on the other end of a telephone, radio, or any other device. The same thing with the internet today. When you're communicating with somebody and they post up a picture, don't necessarily believe that's who you're talking to, because anyway, there was this gal that came on about 2 o'clock every morning, and she had, and then, now you got to remember, I was like an 18-year-old kid at this time. I was in the prime of puberty, and everybody was hot to trot at that time. But they had this woman come on, excuse me, and she had a voice that would make every man, I mean, the CB radio waves was full of guys that at that time of the night, because this sexy, wonderful voice came on the air, and we would chat, and it was just, you just drooled over this voice, imagining in your mind what this person must be like. And do you remember the term coffee break?
Yeah.
No.
Well, they used to have a coffee break, was usually held on a Saturday morning for CBers, and when somebody new joined the CB, and remember the QSL cards?
No.
Well, back in the early days of CB, just like ham radio, you had to have a license.
Yes.
And
I remember your father telling me that.
Yes, you had to have a license. You have to register with the FCC, and you were issued a number or a registered license number, and that was called your QSL. And everybody would create their QSL cards to pass out to other people, so that because you literally had to call somebody by their QSL number, just like you do on ham radio today. And so we would have a coffee break on Saturday mornings to introduce the newbie to the gang, to the group, and you would bring your QSL cards and place them on a table, and you was able to pick up everybody else's QSL cards, so that if you wanted to call somebody, you had their call sign. I remember mine ended in 27 for some reason. I don't remember what the other number was, but anyway, so I was the newbie on the crowd when I got my Johnson, and they were going to have this sexy voiced woman was going to hold a coffee break in my honor on Saturday morning for me to meet the rest of the people. I was so excited. I could not wait to meet this woman. I was like a dog in heat. I could not wait to get over and meet this woman, the woman of my dreams, I wasn't dating anybody at the time or anything, so this was my chance, right? Well, I got over there and I knocked on the door, and this lady came to the door, and she stood about 4.5 feet tall. She was bald, she had no teeth, and she was about 70 years old. And I asked for whatever her name was. I don't remember the name, but I asked for her, and she said, "That's me, honey." And I'm going, oh my God. And I learned very quickly, do not go by the voice on the other end of the radio.
Oh, absolutely. That was like the first lesson that you were taught when you got a CB.
Mm-hmm.
Is don't buy into the voice.
Exactly.
I have 2 base units sitting out in the garage and 1 top-of-the-line mobile unit just sitting in a cabinet out in the garage. I've got 1 home antenna up in the rafters of the garage. These things will never be used.
Oh,
well, actually, CBs are still in use in trucks, mostly. I don't know of anybody that carries them in their cars anymore, but the truckers still use them. They can get away with talking on a CB. This is something I could never understand, and I talked about this in my defensive driving classes, was that a trucker, if you have a I'm thinking of QSL, if you have a
handle?
No, certain driver's license classification for semis and
commercial.
It's a commercial license, but I can't remember the 3 initials for it. CDL. It's a commercial driver's license. If you have a CDL license, you are not allowed to talk on a cell phone, hands-free or otherwise, while the vehicle is in motion. And that includes your private car. But you put a truck on the highway and they can talk all they want on a CB radio. There's no exclusions in the law for the CB radio. So what's the difference between a CB, and a walkie-talkie?
Don't know. My trike has a CB radio on it. Sometimes Debbie and I, we're on the interstate, instead of listening to an AM station or whatever, I'll kick it over and listen to the CBs.
Sure. And a lot of people, some people still do that.
You can follow trucks that way. You can find out if there's Johnny's up ahead of you.
What's their popular channel now?
19's what I always do. If I can't find anything on 19, I'll switch down.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a radio expert in the chat box, right?
Miss Liz is reminding me this is a family show. What'd you say, Dee?
We have a radio expert in the chat box.
And who? Oh, yeah, Miss Diane.
No, Perry.
Oh, Perry?
Yeah, Perry's big time into ham and everything else.
Oh,
I
really?
would love to know ham.
See, ham, I have no interest in ham whatsoever.
Oh, I think it'd be so neat.
I know a good friend that I worked with at the funeral home. He's a ham operator, and he's big time into it. And he wanted me to get a ham license so bad, and I bought the book, and I was studying for it, but I never followed through. And I just thought it was another expensive game that I really didn't want to get into at the time.
Well, Perry was trying to get me into.
I chose broadcasting and spent 3 times the amount of money that I probably would have if I'd have done ham.
Well, Perry.
Oh, wow. Diane said that that Prince Charles is a ham operator.
Wow.
Well, Perry tried to get me into ham. I just couldn't catch on to Morse code.
Do you still? I don't think you still have to know Morse code to get a ham license now, do you?
Not for the, what do they call the very first one you get is a 2 meter. It's like a CB except it uses repeaters.
KF4NN, KF4NN. This is BNNS Radio calling KFN, KF4NN.
Is Perry in the chat box?
Yes, he is.
Ask him.
You do not have to know Morse code to get a tech license. See, I think they've dropped Morse code altogether. I used to know Morse code because I had to know Morse code because when I was in the Air Force, I was a non-Morse intercept radio operator. So I was intercepting non-Morse radio signals, and you had to learn Morse code in order to know what would the all that meant. I've long since forgotten.
If I'm not
gone from the top of my head, the Morse code has faded in the distance as well.
If I'm not mistaken, Perry at one time had a piece of software on a Commodore computer that would translate that.
Oh, I'm sure you could probably find that on Google somewhere if you really looked hard enough.
Terry says, "Yep."
I used to just go over and drool at all the radio equipment he had in his house.
All the medicine I'm on, there's no way in hell I'd be able to learn Morse code. It's too fast.
Yeah, I tried. Yeah, it was. I mean, it isn't that bad though. I mean, if you touch that button, you can distinct between long and short, but you got to really. And if somebody is really, really fast on it, you got to really be on your toes. Hey, Perry, are you still a very active ham operator? I'm just kind of curious.
Phonetic alphabet is more of a must. Oh, Perry replied, not so much.
Yeah, what do they use on the phonetic alphabet now? Are they using the military phonetic, or see? Because even, police have a different phonetic. And
explain what that is.
A for apple, B is in boy, C is in Charlie, D is in David.
Yep.
Where in the military, A is Alpha, B is Bravo, C is Charlie, so on and so forth.
Yeah, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, India, Hotel.
Yeah. And that was very difficult for me because I had to know that when in the military. I had to know the military phonetics, and then when I got on the police department, A is in Adam, B is in boy, C is in Charles, same thing there. D is in David, E is in Edward, F is in Frank, G is in George, K is in King, L is in Lincoln, and so on forth down the line. I could do the whole alphabet, but I won't bore you with that. Lima, Mike, November. That's military.
Yeah.
I think. But that's, farther down the chain there in the phonetics. Let's take
this conversation wandered, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. Let's take just a quick, brief intermission here, and we'll be right back. Rattle, rattle, thunder, clatter, chug, chug, chug. If this is how your car is sounding, you need to call 815-544-0537. That's right, my friends. Belvedere Auto Clinic, located 301 West Locust Street, Belvedere, Illinois. Call and ask for Tom. He can make your car run like new. That's right. Belvedere's best-kept little secret is Belvedere Auto Clinic. You need to call today, 815-544-0537. Come on, do it now. That's right. That's one of our faithful and supporting sponsors down there at for BNNS Radio down there at 301 West Locust Street in Belvedere. He's also known in the group the Watchdog. He's the one that calls Uncle Bill whenever the radio goes out, and which is happening lately quite a bit, and I don't know why. But anyway, the Watchdog is on duty all day long and lets me know when the radio goes down, and I jump on my remote connect and I get it back on the air for him, because he listens all the time, as you should be listening all the time. And you can also be a sponsor just like Tom is. If you would like to be a sponsor and a supporter of BNNS Radio, you can do so by just simply sending a contribution to BNNS Radio and help us stay on the air and help us replace this expensive equipment as it goes belly up, as it sometimes does. And otherwise, just be a supporter by listening to BNNS Radio, not only for certain shows, but all day long. We broadcast 24 hours, 7 days a week, and we have some great programming on there. And you may not agree with all of it, but we have shows like Weird News Weekly with Diane and Norm. And this week's show is called Is She Gonna Blow? I'm glad the camera's not on Big D. Anyway, that's one of the favorite shows on Thursday night at 6 p.m. here on BNNS Radio. This week's topic, Is She Gonna Blow? And let's see. Oh, we also have another great sponsor and supporter out there.
Whether looking to buy a vehicle or in need of repairs, State Street Auto Rebuilders specialise in restoration, street rod building, collision repair and towing, as well as being a used car dealership and rentals. Located at 420 Fairview Street, Belvedere, Illinois, State Street Auto Rebuilders have been in business since 1982. For quotes and service, telephone State Street Auto Rebuilders on area code 815-544-7013.
Yes, Mr. Kit down there at State Street Auto Rebuilders is...
I stand here today, a veteran of these United States.
Excuse me, I didn't mean that was my next segment coming up, and I didn't mean for that to play right yet, but Mr. Kit is also one of our faithful sponsors, and he supports the radio station in every way possible. And he can make your car look like new, where Tom down at Belvedere Auto Clinic will make your car run like new. So do me a favor and support our sponsors by supporting them and take your car to them for all your mechanical and or body needs. You can also be a part of this show if you'd like by calling 815-544-2967 if you have something that you'd like to say. And I'm really nice to see all those names in the chat box today, because we are now broadcasting on YouTube, and a lot of people have moved to YouTube, and the chat box has been running kind of thin lately. I want to welcome to the broadcast Perry, Ryan, Diane, Craig, Peggy, Elizabeth, and, well, she's in there twice. Busy mom. Anyway, thank you all for being here, and thank you for all you YouTube listeners out there. And you can find the replays of any of these broadcasts under BNNS Radio. That's BNN. That's B as in boy, N as in Nora, N as in Nora, S as in Sam, radio.com. Well, I ran across an article here that these are millennials. Now, this is a group of millennials that are holding I don't know if you want to call it a demonstration, but they're anti-fascists. They are dummies who are unwittingly applauding somebody. Now, and this is what's going on in America today, and Big D and I have talked about this a lot. Craig has too, but D and I have talked about this a tremendous amount, that most people that are involved in demonstrations, riots, sit-ins, or anything else you want to call them, that are disrupting special interest groups, that are disrupting the general flow of government and or society, generally don't have a clue as to what they're doing. Now, this video that I'm going to play for you, which is only 2 minutes long, and I want you to, it's a little bit hard to hear because the guy is speaking through a small megaphone, but I think I'll be able to turn it up enough that you'll be able to hear. But I want you to listen closely to his words. Listen closely to his words.
I stand here today, a veteran of these United States Armed Forces and a proud 21st century patriot. Yeah! I would like to take this opportunity to talk about this oppressive regime and the repressive regime that constitutes capitalism as a whole. We are socialists. We are enemies of the capitalistic economic system for the exploitation of the economically weak. With its unfair salaries, with its unseemly evaluation of a human being according to wealth and property instead of responsibility and performance. And we are all determined to destroy this system under all conditions. Benefit to the community precedes benefit to the individual. This state should retain supervision, and each property owner should consider himself appointed by the state. It is his duty not to use his property against the interests of others among his own people. This is the crucial matter. This American nation will always retain its right to control the owners of property. A policy of laissez-faire in this sphere is not only cruelty to the individual guiltless victims, but also to the nation as a whole. For there is one thing we must never forget. The majority can never replace the man. Life is like a mirror. If you frown at it, it frowns back. If you smile, it returns the greeting. Donald Trump seems to think that if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, that it will be believed. It's not the truth that matters, but victory. The doom of a nation can be averted only by a storm of flowing passion. But only those who are passionate themselves can arouse passion in others. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. And as you witnessed, the audience applauded this idiot for what he said. Now, I don't know if you could actually hear what he was saying in clarity. Can somebody, Perry, or somebody in the chat box, could you tell me, can you really understand what he's saying in there? Because let me repeat, and I think this is very important. Just please bear with me on this. We are socialists. We are enemies of the capitalistic economic system for the exploitation of their economically weak with its unfair salaries, rights, its unseemly evaluation of a human being according to wealth and property instead of responsibility and performance, and we are all determined to destroy this system under all conditions. It's kind of... And he goes on to say, to benefit to the community precedes benefit to the individual. The state should retain supervision, and each property owner should consider himself appointed by the state. It is his duty not to use his property against the interests of others among his own people. This is a crucial matter.
See, now
wait a minute. This Third Reich will always retain its right to control the owners. Now, in that part of the statement, he changes it and he said, this country will always retain its right to control the owners of property. A policy of laissez-faire in this sphere is not only cruelty to the individual, guiltless victims, but also to the nation as a whole. Now, those words, and there's more, but I won't go any further, but those words that this person is piping off at a rally against this so-called current government, and that the people of the country, the people of the state, the people, the property owners of this nation retain the right to control our government and so on and so forth. You know what? You know who spoke those words?
Sounds like something Adolf Hitler would say.
Absolutely. Those were exact duplicate words of Adolf Hitler.
See, Uncle Bill, this is where I was talking before that first of all, a lot of what he's saying makes no sense. It's just rhetoric. But these social justice warrior groups are made up of communists, fascists, anarchists.
See, I'm going to cut you there, D, and I'm going to disagree with you. Because I don't think these people even understand those words you're using.
No,
These are young millennial, college age, I'll get you, Craig, that these are young, college age kids that like to sit around and pipe off about fascism, communism, the Trump administration, the totalitarianism, and all this kind of stuff that we supposedly are against, but they're speaking words of the very individual who promoted all of that stuff.
Well, they've
doesn't mean that they are sanctioned fascist or sanctioned communist or sanctioned whatever. They think they know. They're just making noise.
Well, they see, with a little bit of research, though, they are. Now, there are probably some out there that are just what you described, but there are actually communist, fascist, and true anarchist groups.
I agree with that.
That are behind all of this. And that's where a lot of this rhetoric is coming from. And we've talked about this on the show. Here's the stupidity of their argument. They claim they're fighting all of this. Yet, it's exactly like Bill said. It's what they're doing. And the second part of it is, when you read the Communist Manifesto or the Fascist Manifesto that this stuff comes out of, again, why do these young people believe that we can take a system that has failed everywhere in the world that it has been introduced and bring it here and make it work somehow? Because it looks great on page 1. They never make it to page 2 or 3 of that manifesto.
Go ahead, Craig.
The beginning of the thing you played, didn't he say that he wanted socialism?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Bernie Sanders run on socialism?
Yep.
And he come close to beating Hillary. If Hillary hadn't done her shenanigans in California, they say that Bernie Sanders would have been the Democratic nominee and that he would have beat Trump.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
It's absolutely insane that we come that close to electing a socialist.
See, I don't agree with that. I know what they said. But these same people that said he would have beat Trump are the same people that said Hillary's going to win by a landslide.
You know, right after that come out of my mouth, I thought about that.
I'm sorry. If Bernie Sanders would have been in the race against Donald Trump, I truly believe Bernie Sanders would have beat Trump.
I don't.
I do.
Because we're finding more and more and more that they tried to start one of these rallies at a local college here near me, and the students shut it down.
Well, let's put it this way. What's happening now after the election is much different than what was going on before the election.
I don't understand what you mean.
A lot of the demonstrations and a lot of the sit-ins and a lot of the crap that we're putting up with now with the young millennials and these Black Lives Matter, the Black Panthers, and so on and so forth, is all an after-election tinkling match because their candidate, their free ride, did not get elected. Before the election, they didn't hold these types of sit-ins and so on and so forth. They campaigned for that person that they thought was going to give them and maintain the status quo. They weren't calling for, well, like you said, you know, Bernie Sanders, of course, was a socialist, but the rhetoric that we were hearing was much different than what we're hearing now. Everything we're hearing now is anti-Trump. Everything before the election was anti-Hillary, anti-Bernie, anti-Trump, anti-whomever. They didn't want any of them. I mean, you could not get a general consensus of anybody before the election on any one particular candidate. And it took the entire nation by surprise and by shock and by storm when Donald Trump got the necessary votes to win. The world was in as much shock as it was the day 9/11 happened.
Well, I told you how he won. Two things happened. The media played up so hard that Hillary was going to take it, piece of cake, Trump's not even going to come close. So a lot of the Democrats decided, well, Hillary's got it in the bag, I'm not driving clear across town to vote. So that's how Hillary got in.
See, I have a question about that, because it was my understanding that the Democrats turned out in mass numbers to vote for her. In fact, I think they had one of the highest turnouts in California that they had ever had. I seriously believe that what they did was they bought their own hype and did not realize or didn't acknowledge that people were going to vote for Trump because they were tired of the status quo.
That's what really annoys me. Just what you said really, really, really annoys me. For how many years have people been angry at the establishment, at the career politicians and the corruption and all that kind of stuff? Well, now we get Trump in there, who everyone, the establishment is against, the media is against. Why do you think they're against him? Because he's not the establishment.
No, he's not. And we've talked about this on the show, Craig. I am a firm believer that this is not about so much about Trump, but it's about the fact that Hillary did not get elected. Because so many fortunes and futures and political power were tied to the BS that she was going to bring to the office.
Exactly.
And now
they paid for her favors before she was elected. Before she was elected, and then she did not get elected, and they're pissed.
Yeah, and because they know Trump's not a politician. The White House has been a reward for career politicians.
The White House has always been for sale. Now it's not.
And Trump doesn't know that he's not supposed to kowtow or bow down to the Democrats or bow down to Congress. He doesn't know he's supposed to capitulate or compromise on everything. And the other sad part is that there is so much that has been done. You know, here's a news article that infuriates me, guys. Trump is running out of time to pass his agenda.
What, he's got 3 years left?
No, according to these news articles, he's already failed, Bill.
Why? Consider the source, Dean.
I understand.
All the media is against him.
I mean, come on. It's like Bill said. He's got 3.5 more years. What said that he had to pass everything he wanted to do in the first 30 days? That was like the first time that the health care bill didn't pass. Oh, according to all these pundits, well, that's it. He's done. He's just going to take up space for the next 4 years.
Look at the news this morning about Russia was going to offer dirt on Hillary. They're all about that. They're not talking about the dirt that Hillary has. They're wanting to shoot the messenger instead of the actual stuff that she was doing.
Have you seen the employment rates since he's gone into office?
No, haven't paid attention.
I have. It's well over 500,000 new jobs. Well over almost 1 million new jobs.
That must be why I'm not hearing about it.
According to an article I read the other day, is several million new jobs. And every time he turns around, he is blowing Bush and Obama both out of the water.
But the media is going to do all they can do to make him look like a failure.
Yeah, that's why we're stuck on the Russian collusion story.
Right.
That's why everybody... How many times have you heard that everybody in his administration is at odds? Yet...
Well, I think that when we're talking about news media, the one thing that irritates me so dramatically about the news media, and I want so desperately to believe in the media because that's always been our staple to know what's going on in the world. But here lately, since it's become a brutal attack on the presidency and even some other issues, they make accusations, they make claims, they make statements, but they never back it up with proof. In other words, the situation between Donald Trump Jr. or his son-in-law and meeting with a Russian lawyer to possibly, or having email conversations that they're willing to offer some damaging evidence against Hillary Clinton to help in his campaign. How many other people offered damaging evidence against Hillary Clinton? How many people offered damaging evidence against... They tried it with 4 women that said that Donald Trump molested them and so on and so forth, but when he got elected, where'd those women go?
He said, let's go to court. He said, yeah. I will go to court and we'll get this through. I'm not paying you off.
Exactly.
And the women dropped away.
Exactly. So let's go back to the Russian thing with these emails. Let me see the emails. Let the American public actually see the official, not a photoshopped or not a made-up email. Let's see the actual email that offers. And again, I want to see the emails of every individual that offered some damaging evidence against Trump to Hillary. I want to see the damaging evidence that was offered against Bernie Sanders and all the other 15 candidates that ran on the Republican ticket. And what was there, 4 or 5 on the Democratic ticket? I want to see all these emails. And Trey Gowdy is...
Diane said something before it goes off the screen. She says, you should start looking at BBC News, Craig. Jobs are rising faster than expected. Someone else had told me in the past, and it might have been Diane, that if I want to know what's really going on in America, you go listen to the news over there.
You probably heard it right here on BNNS Radio, because we've been saying that for the last 6 months or better.
Oh, we've been saying that for years.
If you really, really want to know what's going on, listen to European news. Do not listen to U.S. news unless they're reporting about a local fire that ravaged a building in New York, or or a kid that drowns in a local pond or something like that. But when it comes to national news or anything about our government, hey, turn off the channel because you're going to get fake news. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. And they're trying to make a big issue out of this so-called email. And I'm so tired of getting on social media and other sources that Hillary is going to jail. Here is the proof. And then you read the article and there's absolutely nothing. And it's like, okay, if you have proof, if you've got the smoking gun in your hand, then produce it and let's put her behind bars. If you've got a smoking gun against Donald Trump, produce it and let's impeach the man. If there's all this proof out there, and the DOJ and the special committees that are investigating all these different elements of what's going on in government, if the proof is there, why aren't we taking action? And why hasn't the public or somebody in power seen the evidence? Well, big article comes out yesterday about Comey and why he did what he did. In other words, he's willing, and I'm putting this into in a short context rather than reading the lengthy article, but Comey basically is taking the bullet for all of our federal government because this whole realm of emails and scandals and relationships with foreign dignitaries and taking illegal monies and all this kind of stuff involves 90% of the federal government. If Comey goes down or if Hillary goes down, everybody goes down.
I think that's what Hillary had over everyone. I think that's the only reason she got where she is.
Exactly. And so this is why Comey took the bullet and got thrown under the bus, whatever you want to call it, because if he breaks, the whole federal government, it's going to blow the entire reputation of America down the tubes.
I wonder if that's why Trump is not going after Hillary and all of her criminal stuff, because he's not going after her for the good of the country. That all, just what you said, so many people would fall that it would throw the United States government into turmoil.
Mm-hmm. And that's like you see on TV. My favorite show, which is off season right now, is Designated Survivor, and that's exactly what transpired in the bombing of the Capitol building. And this way down the list guy becomes the designated survivor and becomes the president of the United States. And as this program progressed, it dug deeper and deeper to find the moles and all the corruption that was going on in government, and it was right under their nose. And here you have this innocent guy comes along that they think they can control, and come to find out they can't. I realize this is a TV show, but to me it shows a lot of realism as to what's taking place in our federal government today, and people just literally don't know how and or what to do. Because, like I said, if we have damning evidence, let's lay it on the table. Let's get the lawyers involved. Let's get the courts involved. And let's quit this hanky-panky, as Trey Gowdy said, this drip, drip, drip. Every week we have a new little drip come along that is attacking the administration. And let's just get down to business and let's do what we have to do. But let's get things back in gear and quit trying to undermine this administration. The administration is what it is, and let's go forward. And it's so sad and heartbreaking that we have to experience this kind of stuff in a modernistic world, a world full of great people and wonderful people, and yet we focalize and we what's the word I'm looking for? We
compartmentalize?
No, we put them on a pedestal. We pedalize people that are wrong. The socialists, the fascists, the totalitarianists, and so on and so forth. And it's like, I just want harmony. And it's so easily attainable, but yet this country has gone so far beyond that I really don't know if there is a salvation at this point.
Well, it sounds like a bunch of kids in a sandbox to me.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's what it comes down to. Like I said, Bill, I think it wouldn't have mattered if it was you, me, Craig, or anybody else. I think if Bernie Sanders had got into office, we'd be seeing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, just take a look at the state of Illinois. 3 years and they haven't had a budget.
Oh.
And they finally pass a budget with a 32% increase. I mean, that is lunacy.
How can people in the Democratic Party, how can they look at so many states and cities that have just gone belly up, that are Democratic controlled? Detroit, look at Illinois, look at California, all the troubles that are there. And there have been Democratic control for eons. How can a Democrat say that the Democrat way is the way to go? It doesn't make sense.
Bingo. Thank you, Craig.
And the other thing is what have we been told for decades? That progressives and liberals are the only ones that care about us. And yet look what they've done to us, and look at what they are doing. Look at the absolute vile hatred for anybody who doesn't agree with them.
Diane wants to know, you mean there's honest lawyers?
Here's a simplistic way that I look at it. I compare it to families, different families. Republicans are one family, Democrats are another family. And I see Democrats as the family where mommy and daddy give the kids absolutely anything they want, anytime they want, how they want. And the Republicans are the ones that lay down the laws and say, okay, you need to sit down and study so that you can get a good job. And you know what I mean? They put limits on their kids. So then the kids grow up, and look what you have for adults. You have spoiled kids that want to sit back and get everything and not have to work for it. And then the other side, the Republican side, you have adults that go out, get a good education, get a good job, and go out and buy the big houses and the fancy boats and cars, da-da-da-da. And usually, in my experience, the families where mommy and daddy give the kids everything they want, when they want, how they want, usually when the kids get to be adults, they're not close to their parents at all. Their parents, they might go see their parents once a year. But the families where limits are set, such as mine, my kids say all the time how thankful they are that I put limits on them, that I kept them, that I made them do their studying, made them get their jobs, and da-da-da-da. And my kids I see all the time. I've got a very good buddy that he might see his kid once or twice a year, and he's the one that let his kid do what he wanted, how he wanted, bought him everything. Anyway, that's kind of how I look at the country.
Well, speaking of states and cities that have gone belly up, I think Oregon's fixing to be the next one. Have you guys heard?
I've heard it's very liberal.
Liberal? Have you guys not heard what they have just done in Oregon? First of all, they passed a law that now says that you can, you know how some states have this thing, if you got less than an ounce of pot, you get a ticket or you're okay. Oregon has now passed a law that says you can now have opioids, heroin, cocaine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They've added that to the list of things that you can now have small amounts of.
Well, it's came back full circle. Do you remember the Prohibition and the Untouchables, Elliot Ness, when they tried to abolish alcohol? And Elliot Ness and his Untouchables went in and destroyed as much alcohol that they could, and they try, and it finally got to the point where the government just threw up their hands and said, "There's no way we can control it. We cannot control it," and therefore alcohol got put back on the accepted social status thing, and now we have all this drinking going on by everybody, and it's an accepted thing. The only thing that I've seen them successfully control to a point, and that is cigarettes. I'm surprised that the federal government hasn't tried to abolish cigarettes altogether. They've abolished it from every public place that you can go, and you have to have special designated areas where you can smoke a cigarette, cigar, or whatever. And I mean, you can go to any public building today, and you will not find a smoker in there. You don't see smoking on TV on any shows anymore.
It's almost odd to watch an old movie and see smoking.
It is. And remember, who was it? Edward R. Murrow, every time, or Rod Serling, whenever he did Twilight Zone, always had that cigarette in his fingers. It was a status thing years and years ago, but when they stopped advertising on television, sales plummeted. But yet they still advertise, Budweiser, the big thing of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
now we're showing panties and bras and feminine products on the air, and it's.
And what's absolutely hysterical, they've done away with cigarettes, but I've seen more and more scenes where somebody lights up a doobie.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I saw in the middle of the night one night. They were advertising adult toys on regular television in the middle of the night. It was a little 1/2 hour or an hour, I don't remember which. One of those consumer ones. Blew me away.
Really?
And they described them. They described how they feel, and I mean they went all into it. Just blew me away.
What was that female sex doctor that used to be on TV?
Oh yeah, the little old lady.
The little old lady.
Dr. Ruth?
I think it was Dr. Ruth.
Okay. And she did it in a way though that was not titillating.
It's right.
Yes, this is Dr. Ruth.
All right. Well, listen, we're down shortly, and we never have had a break, and I know somebody wants to get a fresh cup of coffee, naming moi. So we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back.
Insomnia Street, I'm 1,000 miles away from you. I am incomplete. You never left me alone. I pushed you further than Rome. Now all I can think about is how I miss you around. Oh, your love was with me all this time. You would not leave your own child behind. God, this place is empty without you. You. found myself so far away from you. You, God, this place is empty without you. I need you in my life again. Lately I've been thinking the words that I've been singing. The day I ceased to follow, your tale sounds so hollow. But you were always there, you listened and you cared. Why do I fall away and end up so far away? I want you back. I want you back. I want you back. I want you back. God, this place is empty without you. You found myself so far away from you. God, this place is empty without you. I need you in my life again. You came so far to take me home. You came so far to take me home. 'Cause you never leave us here alone. 'Cause you never leave us here alone. What I want is you. What I want is you. God, this place is empty without you. Found myself so far away from you. God, this place is empty without you. I need you in my life again. God, this place is empty without you. You found myself so far away from you. God, this place is empty without you. I need you in my life again.
And we are back here just in time. Yeah, I got back here in the chair just in time. Is that song with that? Let's see. I didn't see Perry make any guess as to what that was. The Wake Up Starlight. This place is empty. It was a drum and guitar mix. I just picked it out of the blue to play to give us some time to grab a fresh cup of coffee, and I salute all you folks out there in radio land. 76 degrees in Belvedere right now, and it feels like 76 as the winds are at 14 miles per hour out of the northeast. We have light rain in the area, still overcast, 82% humidity. High today, 89 degrees, 50% chance of some scattered thunderstorms, more in the PM than it is during the daytime. But a high temperature today of 89 degrees, and probably will go above that. It's going to feel a lot warmer than that with a high humidity that we have. Thunderstorms predicted for again tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, actually through next Thursday, the chart shows that we're going to have some pretty fair weather between just get through Thursday, and from there on it's partly sunny and mostly sunny and a lot of good weather. A lot of hot temperatures, though. It's going to be in the upper 80s, mid to upper 80s, and even into the 90s. So next week it should be fairly uncomfortable around this region. And out there in Omaha, Nebraska right now, they're looking good too. Today, some thunderstorms, and tomorrow just clouds, and from Friday through next Friday, it's nothing but sunshine. No clouds, just sunshine, but they're going to be even worse than us. They're going to get close to 100. Starting on Sunday, 94, 97, 98, 98, 98, 101 predicted by next Friday.
You have a text message.
So it's going to be very uncomfortable for people out in the Omaha area. Big D, what's it like down in your part of the world?
Currently here at the double wide underground bunker in Franklin, Georgia at 76 degrees. Under partly cloudy skies again today. We're going to have a chance of thunderstorms through the end of the week. It's 80 degrees and stormy down at Dauphin Island, 72 degrees in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's 65 and cloudy in Farmington, 87 in Phoenix. It's actually very cool in Phoenix right now. It's 81 and cloudy in Dallas, 53 in Anchorage. Oh my God, they're having a heat wave. It's 64 in London, and it's 68 and raining in Frankfurt, Germany. In case anybody hasn't been watching the weather, yesterday just north of Uncle Bill had some very severe storms come through with wind shears up between 75 and 90 miles an hour. So let's hope they don't have a repeat of that again today.
Yeah, Mr. Kit told me to stick my head outside. It's been raining hard, and it just slowed down a little. What do you want me to do that for, Mr. Kit? I've got a bald head. Come on. You want me to stick my head out the door?
Oh, a little rain X, it'll slide right off.
Yeah. Like a DA. Anyway, 78 where Perry's at, 79 where Liz is right now. And, Yeah. I know, Kit, Mr. Kit. I know you're kidding. Let's go bike riding, Mr. Kit. Let's put our rain suits on and go for a bike ride.
Hey, can Bill, Mr. Kit's in the box. Can we get him to call in? We had something we were going to ask him about.
Mr. Kit?
Yeah.
Well, if he'll call Mr. Kit, call 815-544-2967. They want to ask you a question. We'll see if he'll do it. We can do it. What's on your mind, Craig, while we wait for Mr. Kit? Oh, here he comes. Mr. Kit? Okay, hang on, bud. We're going to get you on here. Okay, I have Mr. Kit on the phone. This is how easy it is to make a call into the radio. Mr. Kit, go ahead. Are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, well, somebody has a question for Mr. Kit. Let it go.
Kit?
Yes?
How are you, sir?
You're just fine and dandy yourself?
Oh, doing good. We were talking last week about the Cadillac 468 engine. Do you remember those?
Yep, the 4100 motors, yeah.
We were kind of curious if you could explain a little bit the technology behind it and why it failed.
Well, it was a first design. It was an aluminum motor. And it was the first attempt with the computers to shut everything down to make it run efficient. And it didn't work.
How bad did it fail?
I think they made the 4100 motors for probably 2 years, and that was it.
Have they tried... Huh?
What do you think the real reason that it failed? I mean, other than what you just mentioned.
It's hard to say. Could have been that it was the first, aluminum V8 motor that Cadillac or GM started with, because they didn't put it in anything else other than a Cadillac.
Do they make aluminum motors now?
Yes, they do.
And why are they successful over the other one that failed?
Better design. Got better technology in them. You know, a lot of them, when they first come out with some of the stuff, you know, they have head gasket problems and stuff like that. It was the same thing happened with the Nordstar when Cadillac started putting that Nordstar motor in their cars. Had head gasket problems. There was no repair. It was replaced. Yeah, they'd say that they would give you a new head gasket and a helicoil kit so that you could retap the block and stuff, but you always ended up pulling the threads out of the block. And, you know, there for a while, you know, everybody was gun shy of the Nordstars. Nobody wanted to work on them. They're hard motors to work on. You know, starters aren't easily accessible, and oil pumps are at the end of the cranks, and it was a total...
No, look at today. Have you worked on a car lately?
Oh, yes.
I've been down with Tom down there and trying to get at some of those oil filters is a nightmare.
Yes, it is.
And some idiot genius engineer puts the oil drain plug right above a cross member, and so when the oil comes out, it hits that cross member and splatters all over the place instead of going into the pan.
There's several that did that.
I mean,
several manufacturers did that one.
Huh?
Several manufacturers did that one.
Yeah,
Put the oil right above it.
That's about as intelligent. Hey, whatever happened to the Wanko engine? Why did that fail? I thought that was a pretty cool engine.
I have no idea. I didn't get into the imports that much. I kind of shied away when they started playing with that.
I've got a couple questions for you, Mr. Kidd.
Okay.
You were talking about, well, the question started out as the engines with dropping out the back cylinders. There's two kinds that I'm aware of. One is they drop out electronically as you get going and no longer need all the horsepower. They start dropping them out electronically. They just don't fire the spark plugs. But it seems to me that I don't know if it went into production. I'm thinking it did, and I'm reaching way back there to where I would have been. So this would be what, early 80s? I want to say that Cadillac had one that they mechanically dropped out the back cylinders, that the crankshaft was not one solid crankshaft like it is now. Do you remember anything like that?
I don't remember any mechanical ones. I know it was probably around 79. I just left Cadillac as when they were putting in the 4100s that were electronically, where they would drop the cylinders to balance out the motor as you were driving down the road.
I'm going to have to see if I can Google it. That's the way I remember it, but I could be entirely wrong, of course.
I don't remember any mechanical ones.
It seems to me that they come out and then they had to be taken. They had to do a recall on them like almost immediately because they weren't working. But I'll check into that.
Yeah,
the other thing,
I don't remember those.
The other thing is, if I remember right, when they dropped out the back cylinders, the early versions, they just dropped out the spark plug, but the valves still worked. Nowadays, don't they also drop out the valves so that the valves aren't open and closing either?
Well, I'll tell you that with some of the new stuff today, I'm not up on some of the new technology. Now, my sister has a Jeep that just totally freaked me out last month. We pulled up to a stop sign and the thing came to a complete dead stop. And I went to go start it, and my sister said, "No, don't touch it. Just take your foot off the brake and step on the gas." And it started right back up and went and took off.
I heard of that. That they're kind of like the golf carts.
Almost, because I didn't have to hit the starter or anything. That motor just started up and took off by itself. It was like, whoa. New technology's got me a little baffled right now. So
now that does make sense to me because it works so well in golf carts.
So, like I said, it's the new stuff is out my reach. You know, I don't know how much longer I'm going to start doing this mechanical stuff. You know, with the new technology going on. Otherwise, I'm going to end up going to have to go back to school again.
Well, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to buy all kinds of new equipment to analyze this and fix this, fix that. And it's going to put a lot of the small people out of business.
Yeah.
I stopped working on cars.
They do, and have your hands, pretty much diversified and everything. You know, it's hard for the little guy. You know, I do, the body shop part of it. We do a lot of restoration. We do a lot of street rod building and a lot of hot rod stuff, and so it's kind of a little diversified. We do motorcycle repair. We do lawnmower repair. We do it all. So.
Aren't you kind of glad that you're the age you are and you don't have to worry about being a 20-year-old starting your own auto mechanic business? And
oh, definitely. I'm ready for retirement. That's going to happen pretty soon. But I'll still tinker with cars.
Well, I tell you what, you retire, come on over to BNNS Radio, and you can be my in-studio co-host. And
well, that's still going to be a couple years yet, so we'll see. Okay. I'm hoping in 2 years to retire. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Kidd. I appreciate you calling in.
Not a problem.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That was Mr. Kidd all the way from State Street Auto Rebuilders, which is just down the road here from us, not too far away. And see how easy it is to call in and talk about something on this show. There was something that was said during that conversation, and I can't remember what it was now, that I was going to bring up. But anyway.
I'm going to have to hop on the trike this summer and come up for a long weekend so we can go to breakfast or something with Mr. Kit. Mr. Kit, number one, wants to see my trike. I want to see his. But I would love to sit down and just talk cars with him.
Oh, I'll tell you, you got to take a look at his scrapbooks. He's got scrapbooks that would just make your eyes bulge because of some of the beautiful custom cars he's built. And he's got a book of cars that he's had in movies that he's built for, TV shows and stuff like that. And he's not just some schmuck that sits down here on Fairview and runs a towing service. I mean, this guy really knows his stuff when it comes to building rods, and that's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to buy an old car and restore it, but I worked with an officer when I was on the police department that was trying to restore a 37, I want to say it was a Dodge, but I'm not positive, but I think it wasn't the normal Chevy or Ford, but it was like a Dodge or a Plymouth, something like that. And I can't believe the money he sunk into that car, because just to buy one piece of chrome, because he was putting it back to original, and he would search for days on the internet until he found the exact piece of chrome that he wanted, and he might have to pay $60 for that one little piece of chrome. And then people sit back and wonder, why do they sell these cars for $60,000, $70,000 when they're all done and they're back to original condition? So, I mean, it's fascinating. And I agree with you, Craig. It's fascinating to sit down and talk to somebody that's into that business, because the work that it takes to rebuild a car, I mean, it's easy to take a car and chop it up and make it into a street rod or something that's non-original, but to put something back to original is a major undertaking.
Bill, I don't know if you're aware of how much mechanical stuff I used to do. The last engine I swapped was I picked up a 85 Grand Marquis, and it had to be in 83 or 84, so it was a relatively new car. And the Grand Marquis, for those who don't know, is a luxury car. Well, anyway, the car had been a business car, a salesman that drove it all over the place, and someone in the company decided, hey, let's put I don't remember the name of the stuff, but it was basically an engine wash in all of our vehicles to clean out the engines.
Oh.
Well, this Grand Marquis started knock, 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 knock. And I heard of it and said, I'll take that car. Because I was going to just put a short block in it. A short block is the engine without the heads. It's just the pistons, the crank. Anyway, I picked up a short block and I pulled that engine out, and the only thing wrong with it was the oil pump. Had all that crap that had washed out of it had plugged that oil pump.
Huh.
So I probably could have just put a new oil pump on it, and it probably would have been okay. But since I had already had the short block, I just went ahead and put a new one in. Wow. And that, I was afraid to touch it because in 85, they had many, that was the early years of computer controlled. They didn't have direct fuel injection. They had what's called a throttle body, and it would dump fuel into a carburetor. The computer would control how much fuel it would dump into the carburetor. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. All of the sensors that were on there I was afraid of, and I had to use my torch to bend some wrenches because you had to have a special tool to get to this bolt, to get to that bolt, etc. And that was the last engine I swapped because of all the I got them all back on there okay, but that was the last engine I swapped because of all the electronic crap that's on it. I wouldn't dream of doing it nowadays.
No, I wouldn't either. Yeah, and I get that when I go down to see Tom and he's working on these cars, and you ought to hear him. You need to wear earplugs when you go down to Tom's, because some of the things he says about these engineers and their design and how they put these engines under the hood. I mean, remember the time when you could actually sit inside the hood of a vehicle and work on an engine, and your feet would even touch the ground if you stood up?
I bought a 52 Chevy in the early 80s that I was going to restore, and it had a straight six in it.
Yep.
And it's exactly like you said, Bill. Number one, I could sit on the fender without denting it, and there was plenty of room to climb in there.
Yep.
I've still got that car. It's in the garage without an engine in it.
Really?
Yeah. I've got a nephew that.
A 52?
Yeah, 52 Chevy Deluxe.
Oh,
I've got a nephew on Debbie's side that's a mechanic, a Ford mechanic, and I was just on Facebook and mentioned that, okay, I'm never going to restore this, I'm going to sell it. He got a hold of me, and he said as a kid, when he would come over, he would get in that car, pretend to be driving it, and he said that he would love to have the car. Well, he just bought a house, so he's going to take it here in the next month or so. I'm just going to give it to him.
Wow, that's neat.
I would like to see it restored.
That's neat. Big D, what's your contribution to this conversation?
I've had a couple of cars in my life. A 68 Dodge Super Bee. Do you remember those?
Muscle car.
Had 383 Magnum in it.
Yep. That was a hell of an engine.
Yeah, it was.
My most powerful car that I had was a 68 Mustang Boss.
Those were kick-ass cars. Yeah, my dad restored a 66 GTO convertible. Had what they call the his and her shifter in it. It had an automatic, had to park, reverse, neutral, drive, low, or you could flip a plate and pull it down into first gear, and you could manually pop it up into the gears.
Well, see, that's not one of the things that I miss in today's automobiles.
Yeah.
Is like that 68 Ford I had. It had an automatic transmission in it, but you could also shift it manually.
Yeah.
And that's how I won many street races, was you just shifted it manually. But if you put it in in the just let it shift automatically. Of course, when it reached the proper RPMs, it would automatically shift, and you just cruised. But if you really wanted to kick butt, like you said, you did it manually, and you could smoke the tires from one block to the next. Dodge Street was my favorite street, Craig.
That was a cruising street when I was a teenager.
Absolutely.
Friday and Saturday nights, it would be stop-and-go traffic from everyone getting their cars, shining up their cars and cruising.
Light to light on Dodge Street in Omaha, Nebraska, back in the 60s. Woohoo! What a time.
And I'm going to tell any of you bright rocket scientists who come up with the brilliant idea of putting aviation fuel in your car, been there, done that. And I have actually had to buy the inserts and retap for plugs because aviation fuel got so hot it melted my plugs out.
Well, we've tried everything else except, flying. We put aviation landing lights in automobiles, which blinded anybody coming at you. We put aviation fuel in the fuel tank, everything but wings. They've even done that now. Put wings on a car, which can now fly, and you just fold them back and park it. And anyway,
this show is way too short.
I know it is. That brings us down to the final word. Thanks, Craig, because it is way too short. And this is we're up on the end of our show. Again, I want to thank Perry, Ryan, Diane, Peggy, Elizabeth, and Mr. Kit for being in the chat box today, and all you people that are watching out on YouTube at now or later on. Thanks a lot for checking out BNNS Radio. Tell your friends about us, as we would like to become a viral station on YouTube. So help us out, and help us out financially. Send us a donation, and you can easily find us anywhere on the internet. God bless you. God bless America. God loves you. I am your host, Bill Villant, also known as Uncle Bill of BNNS Radio, or as some would call me, Walter the Grump. That being said, God bless you. God bless America. God loves you, always has and always will. Don't ever forget that. Have a great week. And this is our Friday, so having a great next 4 days. Don't forget to join us here on Sunday for live worship services right here on BNNS Radio. You'll enjoy it at 9:30 a.m. Big D.
All right, this has been another 2 hours of the morning show with Uncle Bill, the guy that knows everything, sees everything, hears everything, and tells you most of it. We'd like to thank our crack research staff, Craig, or as he sees it through his eyes, goodbye, Craig. And me, your co-host, Big D. That's right, one guy, one camera, one microphone, and I'm going to say something that's going to make somebody mad. Y'all take care. Remember, God loves you, so do we. Have a good weekend. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Walk on water.
You're listening to Belvedere's Network News and Sports Radio, bringing you the best in Internet radio. That's BNNSradio.com. All day, every day. BNNSradio.com.